Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Page 25. Today I'm going to start the new article, which is how sociologists explain deviance and non-conformity. So, what is deviance, non-conformity? Obviously, there's something within the society which is not acceptable by individuals or a group of individuals. So, what is there are certain things? Why? What are the factors for deviance or the non-conformity? So, one of the things which is subculture. Obviously, for instance, we are living for instance, in USA, so there are so many things which are not the same by the individuals or by the inhabitants of the USA. So first of all, I'm going to start with subculture. Within complex society, there will be more than one single value system. There will be groups which have different values, subcultures in the Western society. Some sociologists have argued that working class subcultures are very different from the wider culture. Some of the features of the working class subcultures have been seen as being Miller trouble, willingness to accept that life involves conflict and to get involved in fights, toughness, demonstrating maleness through physical strength, drinking, smartness, status among peers involve dressing as well as possible, excitement, as work is repetitive, fun, and enjoyment are, are highly valued. Faith, believing there is a little that can be done to influence their life, autonomy, dislike of authority of anyone trying to tell them what to do. So their subculture, it's all about, you can say that whenever we talk about any society, especially in Europe or in America or in like India, I mean, there are so many countries in the world where we can see the practicing of subcultures, and especially according to this article, we are talking about the working class, because working class is a kind of class which has to go out to work to interact more than other classes. So there are certain things like trouble, how much they have to face the music, toughness, it's all about the demonstration, it's a strict timetable you have to follow, smartness, how you look better and better to say to stay smart in front of other people, excitement, it's fate. What is fate is all about, there's certain power which is beyond our knowledge, beyond our control, and fate has a sort of obviously a very strong influence in our lives. Death, birth, your earning, there's so many factors which are involved in fate. So Miller suggests that there are normal features of working class subcultures that bring young working class male into conflict with wider society. Their choices of leisure activities lead to involvement in gangs and conflict with authorities in form of the police. So the behavior of these young men seems to be an example of non-conformity. But the working class youth are in fact confirming at their subculture values. In that sense, they are not deviant. Other group of the young people have formed distinctive subcultures based on the particular style. These are considered in the section on resistance. So first of all, you need to understand what Miller say. What is non-conformity when we talk about the subculture? To see, very first thing is subculture. In subculture, we are talking about, are considering about the working class. Whenever we talk about the working class youth, it has entirely different kind of ideology of living. So try to understand. For instance, according to working class youth, they simply consider whatever they are doing, and if they are doing just to copy or to practice their own culture, most of the time their own culture, their style of living is not matched, or the reason of conflict to the wider culture which is present in the society. So for instance, you can say that being as a Muslim, we are living in India, things will be entirely different. So what we are thinking we are simply practicing our one of our ritual. Because slaughtering an animal on Eid al-Azha is a kind of ritual, and we are obviously very keen about that. We need to practice at every cost. But on the other hand, as we are doing this, it's our religious practice, it's our cultural practice, our ritual. But while living in India, they simply consider the animals, certain animals like goats and things like that. They simply consider they have more respect to those animals, and they simply consider their deities or whatever they have concept. This is not my business anymore. So the thing is that, but we are in conflict with that society because they simply consider The slaughtering of animal is not acceptable, not seen as respectable or important. So there's a conflict. This is conflict. So whatever I'm trying to reach is, I mean, if we talk about the working class, the behavior of the working class on a specific level, the working class youth simply consider we are practicing our tradition, our culture. But when they practice their culture, this culture is entirely different or contrary to the wider culture which is present in the society. So the second thing is under socialization. Another explanation for deviance is that the socialization has been partial or unsuccessful. Under socialization, during primary socialization, individuals internalize the norms and the values of their family and then of the wider society. There will not always be complete agreement between the family's value and those of the wider society of an individual may be socialized in a family where some deviance is tolerated or approved. Even criminals have families. Alternative, the family may fail to socialize a child adequately, perhaps through lack of care or inability to devote time. The child may not completely internalize moral values, learning the difference between the right and wrong, or may not develop the ability to judge what behavior is appropriate in different situations. So, what is under socialization? It is the same. So, most of the time, we have a subculture or a sub portion that we simply compare these things to the wider range. So, what is socialization? Obviously, I keep on saying there are two types of socializations: primary socialization and secondary socialization. When we talk about the primary socialization, in primary socialization, you can say that I'm not talking about working class, I'm not talking about middle class, upper class, or lower class. Is generally there are certain rules and regulation, there are certain culture, norms, and values which are taught by the parents to their kids. So the norms, the values which are taught are learnt by the individuals. It is possible that these norms, our culture, or the traditions are entirely different to the wider range of the society which they are living in, right? So this is one thing. Second thing is that when we talk about the socialization, even it is possible due to the different you can say tight schedule, it is not possible for the parents to teach or tell or convey certain rules, regulations, values, norm to their kids. So it is even possible that the lack of socialization, lack of time for their kids can even make the difference. So children, number one, the children who learn the best rules and regulation, norm and cultures is not acceptable what they are learning in a wide range. One thing. Second thing, even it is possible like functional, I mean, I like the feral child as well, I can say that. So the children are not able to understand or learn the whole stuff which is required by the parent due to the lack of time. So again, this kind of children is not that productive in the society. So again, it's a kind of conflict between the individual and the society. So there are two things, it's all you can say we have for the under socialization. Obviously, last thing you can say that in under socialization we can say that like lone parents, I mean, for instance, if a single parent is nurturing his or her child, so obviously it will be far more difficult for the individual to teach that norms and the morality and the whole give whole package to their kids which is suitable to become a useful or the productive member of the society. Third thing is marginalization. Some individuals or groups are pushed to the fringe of the society, both economically and politically. In the UK, the term marginalization has been applied particularly to working class youth in inner city areas. These areas lack resources and facilities. The school may not be good, and there are few job opportunities. The concern of the young people have not been able are taken seriously by the authorities. They have no politicians to speak on their behalf. With high rates of unemployment, they can feel they have no future. This weekend, the hold of the dominant value system or ideology over them because they do not feel that society is doing anything for them. They may develop subcultures, they express resistance or turn to form of deviance such as drug taking or minor crimes. So in the term marginalization, first of all we need to understand it's all about a certain group of people. I mean, they are pushed to such limit that that group, simply that group, a particular group start thinking that nobody bothers about them, nobody has any interest for their benefits, for their prosperity, or for their development. So what is marginalization? Is simply push a group of people up, you can say a lot of, I just want to give you two examples. For instance, in our society, one can say that, uh, most of the parents, while they are living in rural areas, they simply consider it's a very respectable for their kids to learn the Holy Quran by heart. One thing, but unfortunately, for instance, they spend 4 or 5 years, and even they're able to complete the whole course, which will last, you can say, more than 10 years. So after the struggle, after the hard working of 8 to 10 years, still the people who learn Quran by heart are uh, not that successful in their physical social life, because they have very restricted opportunities. So one can say that the term marginalization for those who learn Quran, who read in madrasas, it's not about the biasness. This is what actually the practical thing I have observed. You can even see that, for instance, of with a person who used to come to home and just to teach your kids the Holy Quran, you simply give him 15 to 2000. It's nothing, if I tell you the truth. So just consider the hard work for 10 years. They keep on learning, studying, and what is the outcome? I'm talking about the physical world. I'm not talking about the spirituality. Obviously, according to the saying of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the very best thing among the Muslims are those who learn Quran and teach Quran. So obviously, this perspective I'm not discussing right now, but practically, the people who learn Quran do something in hadith or this kind of stuff. Practically in our society, they are not most of the time the breadwinners. This is marginalization. Even you can say that, in certain countries, one can say that we simply have a biasness towards certain ethnicities, and simply restricted, you can say, profession are restricted, opportunities are vacancies are given to those minorities. So they are considered to be marginalized. Even you can say in Pakistan, one can say that Hindus can be taken as a marginalization. Christians, to some extent, one can say that they are considered. So normally minorities are taken as the victims of the marginalization. So next, in on page 26, we what? Okay, culture deprivation. What is culture? A further argument suggests that some groups in society lack the attitude and values which would allow them to be successful. For example, by obtaining qualifications and being upwardly socially mobile. For example, the working class having a different set of values from those that are dominant places, such as group at a disadvantage. For example, to succeed in education, it helps to be able to take a long term view, working hard and postponing leisure. That is to defer gratification. A child whose family's background has socialized them into thinking and acting like this stand a better chance of success. Children from working class backgrounds are more likely to have been socialized into preferring immediate gratification, are thus less likely to have such attitudes. They can be said to be culturally deprived, as this can lead to underachievement at school and limitation of their perspective. So the culture deprivation is all about, for instance, we have got two examples. If you want to do something good, you want to have a good job, you need to work so hard, you have to postpone your the leisure activities, you simply need to stick with the books, you have to work uh, 10 to 12 hours of studying, then you are able to get, for instance, if you want to become a doctor, mbbs, you have to work too hard for 5 years, then you will be able to find a good job. One thing, so obviously a person who is working so much and has the facility, obviously when you're planning to do your mbbs, for that you have to pay a lot of money, you should be financially very sound just to do this. So obviously the children, definitely on merit they can do it, but very there's a lot of people, the students who used to do this by means of finance. They have a lot of money, so they can simply get the degree, obviously by hard working, no problem at all. But second thing is that, for instance, if you belong to working class family and you are not able to study for long, so there is a term which is called immediate gratification. What is immediate gratification? The parents of the working class, they simply consider, for instance, if your kid has done something in school or know how to read and write, so still it's enough for the family, and they can simply send their kids to to perform something, just to work in a shop, work in a hotel, to work in any place from where they can get something just to feed their family. There are so many things. So obviously there is a culture deprivation. There are two different groups. One who is very active, very socialized. One thing, and second thing is that the people who are not able to have a lot of money. So obviously they don't have a lot of money. Very early age, they need to work hard in factory, in school, whatever they got an opportunity for that. So resistance, the fourth thing we have, which can create deviance in the society. Resistance is associated with conflict view of society because it assumes a dominant group within the society whose power can be resisted. New Marxists have suggested that where relatively powerless group lack an understanding of the capitalist system but are aware and resentful of their disadvantaged position within it, they can respond with deviant behavior which express their anger. This cannot become a revolution that will bring down the ruling class and capitalism, and is arguably a form of showing anger which can strengthen the system. This is used to explain the deviant behavior of youth subcultures. Young people are relatively free to resist. They are less likely to have long term financial commitments, families to support, or job they might lose. So they have a relatively weak point where resistance to dominant ideology can be expressed. Young people face problems they can contemporarily solve through rejecting the dominant values of the society. So, obviously, we got a criticism on that. One criticism of this expression is that it would probably not to be accepted by the young people themselves. It assumes that the sociologists know the underlying reasons for behavior that the people involved are unaware of. This is an over a deterministic view that undervalues the mass meanings that people attach to their action. So, there are one thing. First of all, we need to understand what is resistance, the way in which people combat and context the dominant power in society used for a wide variety of activities. What is new Marxist? New development, any development from original Marxism, adapting it to meet changing circumstances. So, uh, in resistance, we need to understand one thing. First of all, most of the time, there are two. You need to understand the layer system in a society. I mean, youth, one thing. Secondly, the poor class. They are always the one who keep on practicing revolt. I mean, young people are free. They are not that financial commitments at all. So the young people, they simply start are simply standing against the will of a specific group. We need to understand one thing. If we talk about the capitalist society, we need to understand they are a group of people who manipulate for their personal benefits. So whatever they try to impose on the masses or the specific groups, I mean, there must be resistance. So what is resistance? Resistance either from the poor people, because once they level their best to eke out, when they're not able to eke out, they got two choices: either to commit suicide or just to stand up against the government policies. One thing. Secondly, youth is always a tool for a change, because youth is not ready to be obedient. I mean, they're not ready to accept whatever is coming towards their way. So they're energetic. They have a lot to do, adventurous. There are certain traits, are the qualities, are the characteristics in youth of different societies. I mean, to go against the will of the government. So that is the reason one can say that whenever there is a change, positive most of the time, I mean, the behind the change there is a resistance. And when we talk about the resistance, it's always resistance is fueled, it's aggravated, aggrandized by the youth. So the last thing we have here, so the last, I mean, a moment, I need to wrap up the whole thing. What is the deviance? Deviance is the conflict within the society. There are a lot of things which are involved. First of all, it's subculture. You understand what is socialization, the difunctional socialization, primary socialization. We got different changes. We got a resistance. What is resistance? I mean, it's all about the youth. They're not ready to confront. The last thing, it's the new Marxist. What is new Marxism? New Marxism is all about the ideas which tell us the changes which should be done for the betterment of the people, but which is not practically performed by the government. So till now, take great care of yourself and let me do my offer prayer. Allah Akbar. Assalamu alaikum.